All right, so we watched The Howling 4. Your sister is a nun. Wait, no. The Howling 4. Marie has many problems, but a nun isn't what. No.
Marie's got 99 problems, but a nun ain't one, yeah.
Nun ghosts, all werewolves. There we go. Nailed it.
Left werewolf nun pizza.
Okay,
is that
yeah.
Where we're at?
I don't know that we want a nun pizza. That seems rather chaste. Oh man, this one has the Holy Trinity in it.
Werewolves!
They're coming. They're coming your way. They're here soon.
The Dark Lycanthropic Podcast. Goodbye, Werewolf. Fangs for the Memories. A subsidiary of Rough Cuts.
It's true. Every word.
Everybody's worst nightmare has returned. It's known simply as the Howling.
Every night I've been hearing this howling. There's something so sinister about these woods. He's out there. I feel him.
There's no big animals here, Babs. Don't worry. There's nothing in the forest to harm you.
Go away. Go away, my child.
The howling. She was never able to tell us what happened. The bite marks.
There weren't any bite marks.
The devil's hatred for God has turned man into a habitation for demons.
Eric's still out there.
Ruth was trying to warn us.
Howling 4, the original nightmare.
Actually, the Holy Trinity could be that little like pizza table they give you with like the 3 legs. It has 3 legs.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Hello, welcome to Rough Cuts. My name is Ilyan, and this is my wonderful co-host, the Boyks. We do a podcast about good boys in bad movies. So bad dog movies. This is the... Actually, is this the 4th? No, this is the 5th Howling movie we watched. I'm like, it'd be funny if this is the 4th Howling movie that we watched since it's the 4th Howling movie. But also, we haven't seen 1 or 3.
We haven't done 1, 3, or 8, I think.
Wait, is there an 8?
There's a Twilight reboot.
Oh, fuck, right. I thought there
Of
was...
the
I was like,
Howling
wait, 7
series,
is the
yeah.
end. 7's the end of it. No. Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 8. God. So we're more than halfway through the Howling franchise.
This is a franchise of varying quality, and most of it is bad.
Would you like to... Yeah, we should just give a quick rundown of the franchise, right? So everybody knows what's happening before we get into this one, because they're all connected, right?
Sure.
Right?
Howling 2 has Christopher Lee wearing cool glasses at a rave, and then he goes to Transylvania and fights a bunch of werewolves. Or
that are
whatever.
having sexy werewolf orgies for Satan.
Yeah, for Satan. Are they going to Transylvania?
Where do we have
Is
to
that
go
what
to
they're
find
trying to say?
Sturba?
Maybe? I don't know what the
Whoa.
dark country is.
Dark country.
What does that skeleton have to do with anything?
Transylvania.
I'm right!
You're right! God damn
This
it.
movie rules!
Okay. This movie just keeps getting better.
This movie fucking rules! 5 is like in a castle, and then all the werewolves attack, and it's a murder mystery.
Oh, damn!
Getting in the snow? You have no idea how cold it was waiting there for like 20 minutes for someone to show up.
Santos.
That was amazing. I forgot 6. And then 7 is where they reuse a bunch of footage, and then they also have a bunch of line dancing.
They have 80 minutes of line dancing in 7, and then the ending is maybe the best bad movie sequence that we've ever seen.
It's real
At least for me.
good.
It's up there. It's really high up there. Like that
That
last
movie's
like
all
20
about
minutes.
Yeah, that movie's all about the last 20 minutes. Why is the whole town here?
Because they all set her up. They knew.
What the fuck?
It's a Bolivian army ending.
Oh, line dancing! Yay!
Fuck line dance ending. Perfect.
What the fuck? You can't do that.
They just did.
This movie, oddly enough, is all about the last
20 minutes. Yeah.
Everything else is garbage, but that 20 minutes.
All right. So this is Howling 4, the original nightmare.
The original nightmare.
Yeah, it's based on the books, apparently, like the first 3 books of the Howling series. Howling was written. Somebody wrote something for Howling.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody wrote somebody wrote a Howling trilogy. They wrote Howling and then Howling 2 and Howling 3. Howling 2 and Howling 3 have no relation to any of the Howling movies. Which to me that's still just the funniest fucking thing. It's like, okay, so we made a book called The Howling. Yeah. All right, so let's base a movie off The Howling. Okay. And there's a sequel to that book. Uh-huh. Do you want to do the sequel to The Howling about that? No, fuck that. Fuck the
No, we got Christopher Lee wandering around in cool sunglasses.
I mean, they made the right decision, probably.
And Reb Brown's there too. Yeah, I don't got time for this shit.
But 4 it's a remake of the original, so it's Evil Dead 2 is what this is.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Yeah.
You know what? It's the flip, because so my understanding is we haven't seen Howling 1. One of the reasons why we haven't seen Howling 1 is because Howling 1 is supposed to be, I mean, I don't know if it's a great movie, but it's supposed to be a good movie. Like, it's actually got a following. There's a reason it spawned this many sequels. And one of the things that I have heard about it is that it has some really decent, like, kind of comedy stuff in it. And then this one is totally straight. So, like, that's what I mean about it being reversed from Evil Dead. Because Evil Dead has, like, Evil Dead 2 starts to lean into the, like, groovy, right? Like, doing the chainsaw arm
and ham. Shit. Yeah.
It starts to ham it up, whereas this does the opposite. It goes the whole different direction.
I was reading up a little bit on this, actually, and they did not have a script when they started filming, actually.
Ooh.
They just got their actors, they went out to their set, and they didn't have a script ready. They wrote it as they were, like, setting up sets, essentially.
That checks out.
And that makes sense why it was so damn confusing at times. But the other thing that added to the confusion is they didn't have a budget, which makes sense because they spent the budget on the last 20 minutes. But they didn't have a budget for audio while they were recording. They couldn't get lav mics for everybody. Or a boom mic or anything.
Or boom mics or whatever, yeah.
So they ADR'd literally all of the dialogue in the film.
Which is an incredible aesthetic choice.
There's a couple scenes where they forgot to mute the original audio, but they still ADR'd over it, so you hear like an echo. It's
weird. There's some weird things like that you noticed. It also, like, it just gives this very weird uncanny valley thing from the early parts of it. Like, for example, so she has a boyfriend, agent, lawyer, friend man. I don't know who this guy is. I still don't understand Tom. But anyway, our main character knows a guy named Tom who is her friend.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom talks like this.
He mumbles very quietly.
And it's very deep. And then she goes and she has like a mental breakdown while she's out with Tom. and her husband goes to see her in the hospital. And this is a VHS rip that is pretty low quality, so it's not
It's on
necessarily easy to
freebie, so yeah.
yeah, it's not necessarily easy to see people's faces and like that kind of thing all the time, especially when like they're further away. And in the beginning, they didn't have like close-ups of these characters. They were just kind of sitting across from her ways away. And he talks a lumble like this. He's kind of a very deep voice, and he's always, Marie, you should do the. So we spent a really long time trying to untangle if like Tom was a figment of her imagination that was part of her husband, or like are these the same person? Wait, is Tom a different person than Richard, her husband? Like it was fucking weird, and especially because she has like this sexual tension kind of thing going on with Tom. So it made sense that was the husband. And there's like no intro between them. It's very bad. And so there's some things like that just really get lost.
Because like the first 5-10 minutes were like, is this the same person? Did they just shoot it on different days with different haircuts? What's happening? What is happening? And it turns out she just has a type, and her type is mumbling white guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's her type.
Mumbling muscular white guy that buttons down about 4 things on their shirt to make sure that you can see all of their cool chest hair and nips.
Her husband Richard was contractually obligated to always show his hairy chest in every scene.
Mm-hmm. Preferably with a leather jacket if possible.
Yeah, and to strip multiple times. Like
this movie,
it's contractual. Like we have to show man chest at all times.
Yeah, quick content warning if you want to like watch along with this movie with us at some point. It just goes into softcore porn at one point, so just
Absolutely.
So you know.
Yeah, no, like, this is exploitation for sure.
Yeah, there was a moment where I was like, they're really getting in. Oh no, this is just it's porn. Yeah, no, this is 100% porn. Like it's explicit. I think the way that you described is you went, there was nothing tasteful about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
I mean, yeah, this is just porn.
This is just porn, yeah. At this point.
Okay, then.
There was nothing tasteful about that.
No.
Oh, man. Again, like, this movie feels... one other thing to point out, this movie feels 70s, but it was shot and released, at least in 88. It was shot, like, 86, 87.
Yeah, so, like, almost 90s.
But it feels like from a decade earlier. That's so weird. It's not a nostalgia piece. It's just...
I think that it honestly is based on their budget stuff too. My guess is that simply that some of that in a lot of ways is that they were probably using cameras that were a decade out of date. So like it has that same kind of look of like a 70s show. Like the camera work
has the same problems too, right? Because like
sure,
it hard cuts between scenes all the time. Oh man. Yeah. Anyway,
let's get into the plot, I guess.
Yeah, so one other thing to point out is it has an intro theme called Something Evil.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
And I kind of love that song because it doesn't fit the feel of the movie in any way at all.
No.
It's like a lounge song or something. It makes no sense.
I know what waits for me. Something evil.
Yeah, it's the intro of this is strange.
Marie is a famous author of like mysteries, or I'm not sure if it's like, I don't think it's true crime. I think it's just fictional mystery novels is what she writes. She's like your Alan Wake or your Stephen King.
I was gonna say she's Samantha Queen is what this is. Like she's very, very, very much a Stephen King ripoff. At first, you said that you were like, "Oh, she's like this is a Stephen King ripoff movie." When you look at the synopsis, because it talks about her going for a vacation by a lake as a writer, and I was like, "No, probably like there's other tropes like that. Like that's not just a Stephen King thing." And then we get into the movie and she just has the shining power and it's just totally the shining for like half the movie. And I'm like, okay, never mind. Yeah, it's aping Stephen King real hard.
It's very much that. So she's at a restaurant with her work husband, Tom.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's his job.
That's
He's
what it
her
is.
work
Yeah,
husband.
he's her work husband. I totally didn't think
Yep.
about that. Yeah. No,
And
I even know people with work husbands, and yeah, I didn't never really thought about it.
work husband / maybe side fling. It's not quite obvious. But
We'll get into that.
She's eating at this fancy restaurant with her work husband, and she sees a nun who just disappears. And then there's a werewolf jumping out of the barbecue fire at this expensive restaurant with a cheap, like $20 hardware store barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, ah! And then a hard cuts to her in a hospital with her husband, Richard, who sounds exactly the mumbly same, but is different. And the doctor is talking to her husband, Richard, and he's like, hey, Marie is going through some shit right now. Like, she's having some problems. You should probably take her somewhere incredibly boring and uninteresting so that she doesn't have anything interesting going on to, like, stoke her imagination. Have you considered, like, I don't know, Ohio? Maybe.
Yeah, Nebraska is good this time of year. South Dakota?
North Dakota, South Dakota, somewhere
Either
incredibly
of the
boring,
Dakotas is pretty
with
good.
nothing happening. Maybe Alberta, I don't know, somewhere.
Yeah, no, definitely in somewhere like that. But fucking, just continue, fucker.
Nothing happening.
It's incredibly true, but I love the thought of, okay, her mind is too active. What you should do to make it so that her mind isn't active is give her nothing to do. That'll make sure that she has no imagination stuff to stoke.
Yeah, the way to remove her imagination is to uphand her from her comfortable setting and take her someplace new that she's never seen before.
Well, where she has nothing to do but think and imagine
nothing
stuff.
To do. Yes.
Yes.
It's
perfect.
And she's perfect. An author, so it'll work. There's no imagination.
She's not allowed to do any work, though. No work.
She needs to get away from all this excitement for a while. She needs a rest. And that means no work.
Dr. Robinson?
She needs to go somewhere where her imagination won't be stimulated.
So they're driving down the highway in their convertible. I think this takes place in California because they mention LA a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're driving down the highway in California in their convertible, listening to Mozart at high speed.
Mm-hmm. As you do. You know, kid, listen. Cool people just cruising down the highway, listening to the raddest music alive.
Why are they listening?
Isn't that right,
Who drives dog? Who drives
a convertible with
classical music?
Yes.
Like free to use classical music.
You know, we need you to get away together.
Yep. It's what our marriage needs.
High-speed Mozart chase. Wait, no, it's not her and Richard. It's her and Tom, her work husband.
Yes, that's correct.
Her work husband's driving her.
Yeah, it does. It does cut back. Yes, he says, "Okay, we're gonna take her on a vacation," and then suddenly it's not Richard, it's Tom, her work husband.
Yeah,
this is why we were confused because, like, why would they switch these? Why is he driving her to her romantic weekend with her husband?
It makes no sense.
No, it's fucking nonsense.
So Marie and her work husband driving down the highway, and then they apparently sharp cut to a dirt road, which they were not on.
No.
And sheriff pulls them over and is like, "Hey, I'm the sheriff. What the fuck are you doing driving your car?" And they're like, "Oh, we're driving. Oh, okay. Anyways, I'm here to harass you because I'm a cop. How's it going? I'm here to harass you."
They really do nail in the hatred of cops in this immediately. There are some this movie, I'm so conflicted about this movie because I really, really like some of the themes that they stumbled into. Where, like, I feel like this cop, it really feeds into her kind of like anxiety of other people and the way that she's gaslit. Because this guy is he's super, super quiet, and he's really, really gruff, and he's just a harassing piece of shit. But like, it fits in perfectly with how she would view someone in authority like that she would be scared and nervous around them, and he is immediately unsettling, and it's really good.
Yeah, actually, another title for this movie could be Gaslighting Werewolves, because the whole plot is about gaslighting her with her hallucinations and with people in town, constantly lying to her, and this cop being a terrible authority figure that's lying about everything that's happening.
Well, we'll get into her husband and their
her
relationship
husband.
also.
Fuck.
Yeah. It's very uncomfortable and unsettling, but it's meant to be, and I think that it does that side of things well. What it doesn't do well is almost everything else.
So they arrive at a cottage next to the town of oh god, what was the town? Drago, which is different than Drago, which is the neighboring town of Draga, which is near Dragor,
which is in Romania.
Dragarino, in
where all the werewolves come from.
Can you tell they wrote the script as they were doing it? Anyway, fuck. At the front of the cottage is a big werewolf claw mark on the door, which I'm not sure is a hallucination or not. That's where like I like a good narrator who is not trustworthy about their own story, and that comes into play a lot in this movie. Of like, is what Marie's seeing real, or is it what she's seeing in her head? And is it a premonition? Is it foreshadowing? What is it?
Is it an actual haunting? Is it like
it's not clear ever, and I actually kind of like that part.
I love that part about this. I don't even just like it. I think that this movie, if it was done with a real budget and with, I don't know, a script beforehand, like the theming and stuff of this movie is cool. I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff underneath, but yeah.
Yep, so Marie walks in, her husband's already there setting stuff up at the cottage, and she brings in her work husband, Tom, to introduce to her real husband, to be like, hey, hi, husband, this is my work husband.
Worlds are colliding! You're going to kill independent Marie!
We fuck on Tuesdays. He's here to say hi. He drove me here. Can he stay the night? What's today? Tuesday? Great.
Yeah, God. Yeah, she's like, why doesn't he just stay? And all this stuff. And it's so weird. It is the most uncomfortable scene because it makes no sense. It's bizarre. Why didn't her husband drive her? Why did her work husband drive her? Why did she invite him in like he was going to have a threesome with them?
Right.
Why does like her husband act like he's never met him?
And
right?
Like, not that there's anything wrong if they had that type of relationship.
No, of course not.
But it's just so ambiguous the whole time.
Well, and the husband, the other thing too, is that they obviously don't have that kind of relationship because the husband is really off-put by this. Like, his body language and his like conversation, he's fucking pissed. He does not like this guy. He does not want him near them. Like, and Tom, for his side of things, is also kind of like, I should probably get going. Like, Tom's just kind of, and she's just, no, come on, you guys are going to be great friends. And it's just like, what the fuck is her point here? What's she going to do? Like, what's the goal here, Marie? What's the end game? I don't.
It's bizarre.
Like, it's like she wanted to grab both of them at the end and be like, now kiss.
And like, it doesn't lead to anything really either. So it's weird. But okay. So Tom leaves and they get ready for the romantic multiple weeks in this cottage. I guess. By the way, the sheriff, before he let them go from his harassment that he was, allowed to do for his job, because that's what he gets paid to do. He told them not to go to the town of Drago. Ever.
Yes. Don't go to the town. It's too far. Your cottage is outside of it.
And
Makes
never
it really
ever
seem
step
like he
foot
wants
in
to.
that town ever.
Yeah.
So anyways, they go to the town.
They immediately go to town. Go pick up groceries. Yeah.
To wander around and pick up groceries at the local grocery store with the two
Sightsee
weird
and hang out.
O's, Mr. and Mrs. O, that talk like, I don't know, like they talk like the twins from The Shining or something. They're weird.
They're very stilted.
It's off-putting.
Yeah. Like
Which
she
is
goes
good again. But
the beginning of that scene with them, I remember, is them inside of the store. Like it cuts to them inside of the store as they're saying, "Oh, we need to go and get groceries." And the woman goes like, "We have visitors." And he's like, "I hear them."
I hear him, Mrs. O.
And then they like quickly kind of like shuffle themselves so that they're like, "Oh, like act more normal." And you're like, "Oh, okay." Like it's a good setup. Like they do a really weird stilted intro of these people.
yeah,
So
because then they're like super
very off
friendly and
immediately.
opening and inviting. Like
Yeah, because
you
then
can
they
tell
manage to
something's
get a
up.
facade. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Again, in better hands.
Yes. Yeah.
It would be
It
good.
shows the mask slip and it does a good job. Like there's brief moments of really good stuff in this, and it just
You know what? Actually, this kind of feels like a Tales from the Crypt or a Creep Show or something like that, like a comic book in a
yes.
way.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
You said at one point that it would have been a really nice, tight, like 30 minutes kind of
I think it would.
TV
Yeah.
episode. I think that you could definitely go that way with it. I think that that would be the way for these people to have done it because they can't do the tension. I think that if you could actually manage the tension and have the themes of the gaslighting and stuff ramp up the whole time, this movie could have been a classic. Like if you actually had somebody who was really talented doing some of the stuff and getting and like better actors, and like you'd need a lot of stuff
And a
to
higher
go
budget.
different. But yeah, you might need you would need some things for sure.
Yep.
But like, and I don't want to blame them entirely because some of it is budgetary constraints and some of it is like, like it's obviously a hampered production. But
Yeah, but the couple wanders into a local art store where a goth artist sells oddities and paintings of her vagina.
Hey, you wanna fuck?
And everything in her store, she's like, "That's my vagina," and that painting over there, that's my vagina. That
would you
statue,
like to be in my vagina?
that's my vagina.
Richard?
Yeah, that.
Oh,
room over
sorry,
there,
I see
that's my
Maria's here.
And every single thing, she's just like flirting with Richard, and everything she's ever painted or created is just her vagina.
She's basically like dropping pencils on the floor to be like, oopsie, and like bend over in front of him. And like, it's like, oh boy.
The couple leaves the store, and Marie's like, "Oh, you were really interested in those paintings of her vagina, huh, Richard?" And he's like, no, I wasn't. Shut up. You don't know anything.
No, I just appreciate art.
Yeah, I'm not interested in her vagina art at all.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing to point out, they brought a dog. They brought a dog.
They sure did. Pierre.
Which is like Pierre. It's like a little poodle mix or something.
Yeah, they call it a poodle, but poodles do look different when you don't get them clipped to look like poodles.
Yeah.
Kind of like things like schnauzers, but it looked more like we were talking about it. I thought maybe Bichon. So like, it seemed like it might have been a poodle mix, but they call it.
It looks too small to be a poodle. Is the main.
There are miniature poodles. Like there are sizes of poodles. There's giant poodles that are like huge, and then there are regular poodles, and then there's miniature poodles, and miniature poodles would be about that size. But
yeah,
but other things about it just don't. It doesn't look fully poodle. It doesn't look
like
100% poodle.
It's a white curly-haired little pup who
Yeah.
loves exploring.
Yes.
That is a hiking
Pierre
dog.
just goes on some good adventures.
That is a hiking dog. You take that dog up to the mountain, that dog's having a good ass time.
That dog's gonna go out into the woods and have like a good 90-minute adventure with lots and lots of cool animals, and it's gonna throw a wolf off of a cliff.
Yes.
It's gonna make a fantastic movie.
Yeah, well, I don't know about fantastic. That's a stretch. Anyway, Pierre runs off into the woods exploring, and Marie loses track of him. So they go home to the cottage and go to bed and have sex at night.
Yep.
And during sex, Marie keeps hearing howling in the woods. And she keeps asking, Richard, what's that howling for? The original
nightmare. It's like
nightmare, the
I'm
original
in
nightmare.
my own original nightmare.
And this howling for, do you hear that howling for?
Man, I've
Yep.
heard it 4 times at least. That howling.
Which Richard loses interest completely, and they just stop. Like,
Yeah.
oh, howling for the original nightmare. Nothing is maybe less interested in you.
And what's that howling?
For.
Only howling I ever heard was a coyote.
Original nightmare.
That was a good many years ago.
And there's kind of this constant theme where like they do that a lot, where basically at the end of every day it's him having sex with her. She's very disinterested, it seems, and she keeps on being like, do you hear that howling? Like, and it mostly when they're having sex, and like late at night and stuff, when he's sleeping or when he's, like I said, wants to get down with her. And so it's really pissing him off because it's starting to show that tension in their relationship, which is like, I like this. I really like this part of things where it's showing that distance between them and her. Like, again, is it her illness? Like,
There's a lot of like,
she's
is this
mentally
real?
ill? Is this
it not? Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of that kind of tension there, and it's him. It feels like he's trying to be supportive. I'm not trying to defend him because he's a real piece of shit, but also like he's slowly getting more and more frustrated with her over the course of this, of like, well, he's doing the shitty, she's just crazy and I'm fucking tired of it thing, right? But he's trying to hide it, and it's just bubbling underneath the surface, and it is affecting the things that he wants to do with her, mainly her, over and over and like more and more and more as this goes on.
Yeah. It's
like, and I like that theme of it, like, because it's showing that those cracks in the relationship and how that's happening and how much the howling is getting between them. So she has her little thing where she's yelling about howling, and throughout we can kind of speed run some of this because, oh man, this movie is slow, right? Like,
it's slow. I do want to point out, like, she talks to the villagers a lot of times, and they're constantly really bad about lying about things that she's heard or seen.
Mainly Mrs.
so
O.
often. Yeah, Mrs.
Mainly
O is the
Mrs.
worst.
It's so fucking
so
good.
bad at lying.
Do you want to do that? What's her explanation of the howling, Boix?
Oh yeah, because so Marie goes to Mrs. O and asks about, hey, did you hear that howling last night? The original nightmare?
Yeah, that nightmare? Have you ever had an original nightmare, like one that no one's had?
Yeah, and Mrs. O's like, howling. Oh, that must have been the owls. Owls in the woods.
Owls. Yes, the howl owls. They're out in the woods. These howl owls.
They howl all the time, those rascally owls.
It's just...
And Marie's like, oh, okay, the howling owls. I should have known.
Oh, yeah, howl owl. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yep.
I'd like to, Mrs. O. It's just that there's something so sinister about these woods.
Is there?
Every night I've been hearing this howling.
For?
Well, it's probably just owls. The woods are full of them.
Fucking is just like, what the fuck are you talking about, lady?
And there's like there's a bell tower later on too, and they're about to go explore the bell tower. Mrs. O's like, oh, don't go near that bell tower. It's a fire hazard. That's where people go when there's a fire. To warn people about the fire hazard that it is.
Yeah, it's a fire hazard. How is it a fire hazard? It's how we hazard people that there are fires by
makes
letting
no
them know.
fucking sense. Like, wait, what? I think they ad-libbed those lines or something. It makes no sense at all.
The unwritten script might be the culprit here for sure.
But yeah, so Marie eventually wanders towards a cave as she's heading back to her cottage because
she
the
gets
goth lady tells her to
to
go there.
And she also famously, she's been seeing ghosts this whole time. So she saw the nun early on, because this just kind of ties together, because this is and this is where I wanted to speedrun some of it. Throughout
Mhm.
all of this stuff while the howling is happening at night and everything too, she is also constantly grappling with like these visions where she sees the two old people that used to live in the house, and then they like fly against the wall and then they disappear, and she sees the nun a bunch. She keeps seeing that nun that she saw in the opening sequence.
Mhm.
And when she's going into the woods at one point to go back home, she sees the nun again. She sees somebody in like a black kind of habit, looks like a cloak kind of thing, and runs up to them and grabs them by the shoulder. And it's the goth chick in a cloak. And the goth chick directs her to a shortcut across a bridge, and that's the way home. Like an extra way home. She's like, oh, you'll get there faster. And then when she goes across that, she runs into the cave. So it's kind of tied into that whole, like, she's just constantly seeing these visions of like the nun and all of these old people that used to live in the house and stuff like that.
And inside the cave, she finds Pierre's decapitated head,
Yes.
which is very bad. I love Pierre. How dare
It's
you?
done really sudden, so you almost
Yeah.
don't recognize it, which I liked. Like they did a good.
Mhm.
It's blink and you miss it kind of thing. I wouldn't call it a jump scare, but it's just
Yeah.
surprising.
Yeah. And later on, her husband goes back out to that cave to see if he could find it, and all he finds is a doll head that looks kind of like Pierre's hair.
Mm-hmm.
So he makes the assumption that she saw that and then saw a vision of Pierre dead to further gaslight her, essentially.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Anyway, yeah, she runs back, and I guess the husband goes to the goth artist on his own later,
Yeah,
which
to
is
get her a
further, yeah, to get her painting supplies or something, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. She
And-
said that she was also a painter and liked to paint sometimes, so he was getting her some paints, and then he said he'd also pick up
Yep.
a present for her.
Just to point out that he's willing to go back without her.
Mm-hmm.
So later on, some hikers show up. Skipping ahead a bit, some hikers show up at the cottage and like, hey, we're hikers. It's us, a couple who definitely won't die. We live in a camper in the woods. We definitely won't die.
Yeah. One thing that I really love as a hiker. Living is the best thing. I just love living and hiking through these woods alive, being able to breathe the air, nothing ripping my throat out. Oh god, there's something ripping my throat out. Oh god, oh, the worst thing, the thing that I don't like. So the hikers die.
So they die, and Marie sees like a tow truck driver towing their camper back into town.
Yeah.
Well, before that, though, she did meet a nun that also randomly wandered up at her door, like about the same time as the hikers. So I was really confused if she was one of the hikers or not because of the timing of it all.
Yeah, it happens really close.
The
she
nun
finds
was
the
like a big
hikers injured in the
fan.
woods,
Yeah.
and then she finds the nun like right afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, but the nun's just a big fan of her books, and she was also looking for the other nun that went missing in the same town randomly, coincidentally.
Yeah. To make it clear, she's not a nun anymore. She's not dressed as a nun. She's an ex-nun. She says that she left specifically because she's trying to find what happened to Sister Ruth, which was the nun that, oh god, Marie is seen in her visions, because they even show this new nun, Janice, brings photos and stuff of her and everything, and is like, oh yeah, like I'm looking for Sister Ruth, and shows her the photos, and she's like, holy shit, that's the nun I've been seeing. So there's this instant connection between them, and they decide that they're gonna do some Scooby-Doo sleuthing around shit to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and it's really weird that the camper was getting towed because it didn't have any front tires.
Oh my god. And she's like, no, I know that this is the people that are in the woods. I know these people. And she's trying to stop them from towing it away. And they're like, oh, you know that one? Well, come on. Like, it doesn't have any plates. And the whole time I'm like, but it also doesn't have any tires. Like,
how
more
are they driving this
importantly,
thing? What?
Like, you can't tell me, oh, well, we know it was abandoned because it has no plates, when there's no fucking tires on it. That seems like a way bigger sign that it's abandoned. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, so Marie and Janice Scooby-Doo around, and they find plates. New York plates.
Just as an aside, I think that the camper probably doesn't have tires because of budgetary constraints.
They just got it at a junkyard. Yeah, that's all.
Exactly. They found an old junkyard one, and they weren't going to buy new tires to put it on this thing and make it look right. So, but
they'd
it's
have to
just
get
incredible.
4 too. You can't just put 2 tires on it. It doesn't
No.
look right. Yeah. How are you going to drive that thing with 2 tires that are different than the other tires? Yeah, makes no sense.
Anyway, yes, they find the license plates, like you said. Not only did they find them, where they found them is important because it's inside of the tow truck. They sneak into the tow truck like bay where the guy had been holding it, and it was thrown in the trash can. And these guys had said, like the sheriff and the tow truck driver, like, oh no, we found it in the woods, totally abandoned, no plates. So now they're like, well, what the fuck is this about? Because I'm like, if they said there's no plates on it, why are there New York plates?
These
on
plates
this thing?
raise a lot of questions about how often trash day occurs at this at this tow truck service.
Very, very small town.
Yeah, because what we learn later, it's implied that they were there for quite a while in that trash can.
Yeah, this
doesn't
part
really make sense.
Doesn't add up at all, and this is one of those things where they needed a script before they started filming. Because
I guess
some of the details do not match up appropriately.
So Richard comes back home, and now he has a gun because he went to LA. Off screen at some point.
He's in
with
LA.
a rabbit.
Don't worry about it.
He hunts rabbits now. Hi, I'm Richard.
He comes back with a gun and a rabbit from LA, the place where you go rabbit hunting.
What? It makes no fucking sense.
It is the weirdest fucking transition.
Yeah, and then he teaches Janice and Marie how to shoot, although Janice can already shoot. Marie has no idea what the fuck she's doing with that gun.
Yeah, Marie is gonna throw her shoulder out. Janice is gonna murder some motherfuckers. Janice is ready to join SEAL Team 6. She has perfect form. Holy shit.
And then the next day, the next day happens a lot in this movie, by the way. It constantly shifts between day and night, sometimes in the same scene.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you mean like how it went from day to night to day to night. Listen, sometimes you have to shoot night to day, right?
Sometimes Richard will be Richard will be in the cottage, walking outside the door, looking outside into the woods, and it's day. And then in the woods, it's night. And then it cuts back to him looking into the woods, and it's day. And you're like, what fucking... Did time pass? Did he stand there all night? What happened?
Yeah, because she tells him that she hears something in the woods at one point, and when he goes out to look, him on the cottage is, like you said, night, and then when he's looking in the woods, it's day, and it's just back and forth, and it's like, that's not what day to night means. You can't... They wanted to do that...
Yeah, they must have just not shot the scene, and then they tried to edit it in later. There must be something like that.
Well, I think that what it was is because at the end of that, when he's looking around in the woods, and then he finally gives up and he goes back inside, there is motion in the woods for half a second. It's a really bad shot scene. But there is... It seems like what they were intending was there was like, oh, there was something there the whole time. And if it was night, they didn't have any lights and stuff. They have no budget. So they couldn't show that at night. So they just shot it in the day so that you could see the movement. But then it doesn't work because he's looking from night into daytime, which is the most mind-blowing thing that you can possibly imagine. Like, it just does not line up at all. Your brain is breaking the entire time. It's real weird.
It's real odd. So Richard goes back into town and wanders over to Goth Lady, who draws vaginas. And then they just very graphically bone.
And then they just jump into a porno.
Yeah, and at the same time, Marie gets attacked by a wolf, which she shoots at. And Richard comes back home that night after cheating.
Yeah.
To gunpoint by Marie, aimed at the door, who's scared. And he walks back out to go look for the wolf that she saw. He doesn't see anything. The window's not broken like it was when the wolf attacked. So, he thinks she's losing it.
Yeah.
She has to be losing it, right?
Yeah, and it's showing that he's reached his breaking point also because that's the reason that he cheated on her, right? It is kind of implied, is that he's tired of looking after her and that kind of thing. Like, it makes him a piece of shit, but that's his thing, is he's just like, well, I want her to be here and available for me, and she's not, and he's not there and available for her, so he's just tired of it and he's finding somebody new.
Yeah. So after Marie confronts him about werewolves, because she thinks werewolves are attacking, he just has it. He fucking leaves, and he meets up with Goth Chick in the middle of a field, and then they bone again in the middle of the field.
Because in the middle of the night, he's like,
why
I'm gonna
not?
go
They're
out for a walk.
outside. They're gonna bone, and I guess the Goth Chick like transforms a little bit and bites him, and then leaves him.
Yeah, bleeding out in the woods.
Yeah, and Marie runs out after him, bandages him up, and brings him inside. And he's like, "Hey, because she's gonna go leave to look for medical help because he's bleeding really bad. He has huge bite marks and scratches. And
he's fucked up. Yeah,
and she's like, "I'll go get help." He's like, "No, don't go. There's a wolf out there that attacked me. Stay and hide."
Yeah. Which I kind of like that they give him a bit of humanity at a few points here, where he's kind of like, because he is trying to protect her at this point. He is saying like, because he tells her like abandon me, because she's like, oh, I'll go and get you help. Like, and he's like, no, like, let me die. You run and hide. There's something horrible out there.
Yep. So she puts him in the bedroom and calls the doctor the next day, the town doctor. He shows up and she's like, "Oh my God, did you see all those wolf bite marks all over him? He was bleeding everywhere. Is he okay?" Bite marks? There were no bite marks, Marie. He just fell down a gully. I can lie too. Hello, I'm lying.
Yeah, fell down a gully in the 50 feet away from your cabin that's in a field.
He was only boning a lady and then fell down a gully.
So she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And runs upstairs to see Richard, and she's just fucking livid. She's like, all right, you tell him that a wolf bit you. And she comes and looks at him. And because they were also like, oh, it's just a few scratches on his shoulder. Like, what are you
and it was like
freaking out about?
Cuts.
Oh, yeah. Like, he had he had a huge chunk out of him. He had a bite. And now she's looking at him, and he has 3 little scratches on his shoulder and nothing else. And he goes, I fell down a gully and hit my head. What the hell are you talking about? And this is where the
gaslighting her. Yeah.
The gaslighting, like, it was always there, but this is where it just cranks it into overdrive. Like, they're just constantly now like lying to her. And she believes them. She's like, oh man, like, and she goes to Janice and she's like, listen, I need to stop doing this Scooby-Doo shit with you. It's really fucking with my head. Like, I thought that my husband was attacked by a wolf because of all this werewolf shit and the nun stuff. And she's like, I have to confess to you, the reason that I came out here was because it was recommended by a psychiatrist, because I'm having a lot of mental illness right now, and I need to
hallucinations.
Like, I've been having hallucinations, I've been having all these problems, and this is a doctor prescribed thing where I'm supposed to relax and not get into these kinds of problems so that I have less of a problem with like a fractured reality kind of issue. And I think that this is really unhealthy for me to be around you and doing this stuff, which is like a really interesting kind of plot point. Like, I like this side of things. It's gross and unsettling because you know that she's right, but also it's done in such a way where he's a bastard, but he's also got enough humanity that you can see why she keeps believing him, right? Like how he told her to run and hide. Like, it does a lot of that pretty well. And then Janice, actually, for her part too, is really good about it. Janice is a great person, because Janice immediately goes like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I had no idea that you were going through this. Yeah, you shouldn't help me with this at all. Like, it sounds like too much for you. Just leave it, kind of thing. And yeah,
and
very supportive.
Before that, she also called Tom, her work boyfriend, work husband, to first get the information about the plates, which were actually not from the hikers. They were from somebody named Brooks, last name Brooks. So that feeds further into her, oh my God, am I making stuff up?
And because she's like, oh, that's not even the same license plates. I guess I was totally wrong about the hikers too. Yep.
And then she asks him about werewolves. He's like, oh, like in the movies, those aren't real. So he's concerned enough to drive out in the middle of the day, but it's night for him.
Yes. Yeah. God, day-night stuff is real bad.
And that's important because Tom shows up and starts like smooching on her because he's her work husband. And Richard gets jealous and tells him to fuck off. So he fucks off over to Janice's place in the town next door for some reason.
Yeah, I want to
I don't know
mention
why.
real quickly. I just want to clarify you when you say smooching on her. I like the way that they did this in that all of Tom's stuff. I don't know that it was intended, but I do like that all of Tom's stuff is very ambiguous because she's like, no, like I'm just having a breakdown. Like you need to not feed this into me. Like
Mhm.
I'm really having problems mental health wise. Like you need to go. I'm sorry that I bothered you. Thank you for being supportive, but like I just need the rest that I was supposed to get. Like thank you for helping. And he's
Mhm.
like, and she's kind of crying almost. So he goes behind her to like comfort her and give her a hug. And it could be sexual and like that he likes her, but it's also kind of just he could just be a friend. Like it's
never
very
quite
ambiguous that
clear.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite clear. And so then when Richard comes in, Richard super overreacts and is just a piece of shit because that's who Richard is. And you know, he's projecting because he's been cheating, so he is just gonna assume that she is. She's like, no, like Tom's being nice, and then they have their little fight. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he leaves.
So, but Tom goes to Janice's, and he's talking to her about those plates you found weren't even from those hikers. It was somebody named Brooks. I don't know Brooks. Oh my God, Brooks! Like the nun who went missing. Oh my God,
Sister Ruth Brooks.
Sister Ruth
learned her last name.
Brooks.
Yeah.
So they go investigate, and her parents were also, of course, Brooks, and they were from New York, and they were the ones who owned the cottage before they rented it. So the ghosts that she's been seeing were the Brooks who were apparently killed. And it all ties back, like the New York license plates. They went to a New York hospital, supposedly, from the doctor who lied to Marie. Like, there were a little bit of clues here and there that something's not quite, as they were saying. But yeah, so Tom and Janice go running back to Drago, whatever it is, because they need to go save Marie. She's in danger, and they know because what Sister Ruth used to say all the time was that we are all in fear.
So I was going to say I almost interrupted when you were talking about how it kind of all ties together. I was like, yeah, I kind of like the mystery does have a lot of little hints to it the whole time. And if it was more skillfully put together, I think that it could have made a really interesting tension build up to like the solving of it. But then there's also this, which is just like what the fuck?
The scenes where the nun showed up, she was saying, "We are all in fear," and then she would like scream or fall or get attacked, and like we are all in fear. We are all in fear. So Janice is like, "Huh, demons? Huh, werewolves? Huh, Satan? We are all in fear," and then she just starts saying it faster and faster. And then she's like,
"We're all in fear.
We're all in fear.
Werewolves are here.
Werewolves
are here. Werewolves are here. Oh my God, that means that there's werewolves and they really exist. You're like, I'm sorry. What?
Comes out of fucking nowhere.
Werewolves.
We're all in fear.
Demons.
The demons. The denims. Jeans.
Werewolves are here. Werewolves.
Oh my God.
Werewolves are here. Werewolves are here. Werewolves are here.
Yeah, that totally fucking. Yeah, that's the clue. If we had just heard we're all in fear, we'd have realized immediately. How is that? That should not be the inciting thing for this. That should not be the big reveal. is that we
Werewolves
are all
She
in
was saying
fear.
that the whole time.
Kind
How
of
did we not
sort of
know?
reminds you of werewolves are here, so obviously that means that it's true.
It's like extremely loose.
Oh yeah. Like Peter killed a deer. I mean, who right? Who knows? It could be anything. It's so fucking.
So they go rushing back. Tom
Ghosts drink lots of beer. Oh my god, we need to get a keg.
Oh my god, werewolves are here. Oh Jesus. Yeah, but so Tom comes up on Richard in the middle of the road as he starts to transform, and Richard kills Tom on the side of the road. And then we get like the coolest fucking thing.
Yes.
Like the actual coolest fucking thing I've seen.
There's no way that we can describe this in an adequate way.
And the rest of the movie does not at all justify watching this scene, but you should watch this scene on its own, I would say. It's so fucking good.
It's one of those things where I'm like, man, like all the budget went there. It's not like oh, it's so bad it's good scene. It's a so good it's good scene. It's really fantastic. The werewolf transformation, and it was reused. We mentioned it in Howling 5 or 6?
It was 5 or 6. One of them,
maybe both of them. It might have been both of them, honestly. They reuse this transformation sequence, or at least bits of it. They never show the whole thing, which is a travesty because holy shit, this thing's so good. And even in those ones, I remember us being like, wow, this scene looks
we were like, I want to watch that movie. That movie looks great.
And we were wrong about that. But also, this transformation scene still slaps. Because their werewolves are... So in this universe, in the way that they've done them, the werewolves are demons from hell. That they basically make a deal with Satan, and that's what makes them monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, that means that they don't just have to like transform into a werewolf from human directly in a way, right? Like it's not like the normal werewolf lore.
Like Satan needs to imbue demonic power into them.
Yeah. And so they literally melt this man down like a candle to his skeleton in incredible fashion. Like, this whole scene is 3 minutes long. Like it's a hugely long transformation
falling off in pieces to reveal bone, and it's disgusting. The whole thing
until
is
he's literally nothing but skeleton, and then he's in a puddle and he's like writhing, just his skeleton moving, and then he like slowly reforms into the werewolf, like with like the snout slowly coming off the skeleton, and like it's impossible to describe in a way that makes it as cool as it actually is. It's fucking rad.
I think it might be better than like American Werewolf in London or any of those. Like this might be the best werewolf transformation.
Yeah. It's on the level for me. A lot of what it reminds me of, a lot of the prosthetics and stuff, felt very much like The Fly.
Yeah.
Like, because how melty he gets and all the skin sloughing off.
It's punching so high above its weight.
Yes. Yeah. It is a scene that is... It's one of, like, the greatest gore / transformation scenes that I've ever seen. And that's not in, like, in bad B movies or in... No. Like, it is 100% up there with something like The Fly. Like, it's really, really, really good. It's an incredible scene of just weird gore shit, and it really is helped atmospherically when, as he melts down into the puddle, the other werewolf villagers finally find him and see him, and they start like chanting like "Satan, take him" and all this stuff. So it's like very over the top weird
Satan calls you.
Yeah, all that stuff while he's like coming back out of the water as this werewolf now, and oh god, it's really neat. Yeah.
This rules. Yeah, this fucking rules. Look at this. man, they spent. I would also cut audio from the film for that. To be fair, I would
honestly,
put all
it
my
might have been
budget
worth
to
it.
that. If it
Yeah.
was that good,
Mm-hmm.
we could redo the audio. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need lav mics. We gotta shoot this fucking transformation scene.
I don't fault them for that choice. And that's where I was saying, like, I do feel a little bit bad about this movie because there's obviously some talent behind it at various points. And, like, there's some of the theming that really works. And I'm like, man, I wonder how much of this was that if they just had money so that they could spend time, like, doing the script. And, like, this might have been a classic. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you gave them another $50,000, would this movie have actually been incredible? And it might have been.
I have some information on that. They had a $2 million budget for this film.
What the fuck?
In 86 or something when they started shooting it?
What?
Yeah. They have never made back that $2 million either, by the way.
Holy shit. Yeah, I mean,
So, like,
imagine.
with that budget, that's concerning me.
That
they were so half-assed about shooting this.
There is some mismanagement somewhere. Like,
yeah, right? Like, the budget's way bigger than I thought it would be. In 88 money.
Yeah, I mean, movies didn't get made for that kind
No.
of, like, not Howling 4 movies didn't get made on $2 million budgets. Like, that's...
No, so, like you and I are talking about, like, oh, if they just had more money, but I'm like, I think they had the money. That's what's concerning about it.
There must have been, yeah, it feels like there must have been, like, some kind of problem where it got delayed. Like, maybe a director left at one point or something. Like, it feels like...
Like, that's $5 million.
Something happened. Because, I mean, also 2 years of production for this. Like, if they started filming in 86 and the movie came out in 88.
And I'm
movies take a
assuming
while
they
to
started
make,
filming it. Like, most movies are filmed a year or two before release, so...
Sure.
It would be somewhere around there.
Oh, okay. You're just assuming. Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
It's somewhere around there. But the point is, like, they had the budget.
Weird.
They clearly spent it here. But, like, the rest of it just feels... I wish they did better.
Yeah, this is a... Speaking of mysteries, this movie is a mystery. But... yeah, anyway, so we get the raddest fucking transformation sequence, basically, of all time. One of the coolest scenes. It's really, really good. I'd highly recommend it. I'll try and link it on Twitter and stuff, and you can look it up on your own. Just Howling 4 transformation.
So Marie ends up getting into a car and trying to drive off after all the werewolves run after her. And Janice comes upon Tom's dead body and then goes straight to Marie to try and save her in her open door...
yeah, they ditched the car with, like, a lot of doors and stuff that are closed. So that, yeah. So the things can't get in and go into the open top Jeep.
Yep. And so Marie runs into the open top Jeep and is like, all right, we're safe now. They can never get into this open vehicle. And the sheriff just shows up with a gun and shoots all their tires. And they're like, oh, fuck. Shit. So they run to the bell tower because there's the lore from Romania about how the neighboring town took out all the werewolves by ringing the bell and then starting a fire, burning them all down in the same bell tower that they imported from Romania to this small town for fun because it's a fire hazard.
Yeah, for no reason at all. Which, it seems like a really bad idea to bring your weakness with you from Romania, but,
Mrs. O was technically correct about it being a fire hazard, and also when you ring the bell, it's because there's a fire, right? Like, she was technically right, but...
Also, how do you import a bell tower from Romania when the lore of that bell tower is that it was literally burned to the ground because they killed all the werewolves in it? It's one of those things.
Why would you want that in the middle of your werewolf village if you know the lore of it burning down a werewolf village?
Yep, like I said, well, let's import our weakness. It's like if a vampire town decided to bring in a shrine full of garlic and steaks and stick it in the middle of their town.
Hey, let's start that holy water store in our vampire town for fun. Why not?
For fun, we'll just do it. It'll be funny. Like, why did they do this? At great personal expense, they took it. It's one of those things where, again, like, this movie, it varies wildly in quality because even one of the best transformation sequences of all time with, like, and lots of really cool theming just before that of all the gaslighting and the fight between like Tom and Richard and all that kind of thing, and like her two lives clashing. And then all of a sudden it just goes to, how do we get rid of the wolves? I don't know. They imported their weakness from Romania and they burn it. Fuck it. I don't know. Like, it's just,
So I guess
so
it makes
much
no
care and
fucking
attention on
sense.
one side, and then on the other side, just like, fuck it.
It reads like they wrote the script as they started filming.
Yeah, almost.
Weird. But so Janice rings the bell. All the werewolves come to the bell tower to attack her. As Marie like sets off a Molotov cocktail like thing in the gas tank of her car, I think. And
No,
pushes
it was just a random car on the
random
side.
car.
Yeah. There was a
She
Jeep
pushes
there that
it-
had like some gas in it. Yeah.
Yeah, she pushes it towards the church bell tower thing, which burns it to the ground, killing all the werewolves inside and Janice because she didn't leave. I guess.
Well, Janice knew she wasn't going to.
Yeah.
She said like she had to ring the bell to keep the werewolves' attention and keep them there.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And
Sure.
Marie sees Richard, who was transformed and is very hairy. Not normal Richard hairy. Like he's this chest showing
a
all the
lot
time.
of him shirtless and hairy.
He's
Yeah.
even more hairy.
You would
And she's
call
like,
that man
Richard,
hirsute.
Richard, I can't believe you died in that fire after you turned into a werewolf, and I threw that car at you, which killed you in this fire. And then a werewolf pops out of the fire, like in the cheap barbecue at the beginning of the movie. Oh, spooky! And then it ends.
Credits.
I guess that's the end. Like, there's some foreshadowing, I guess, with like the nuns and some of the visions she's seeing and all this stuff. But like the payoff's
fire,
not good at all. Some of
No.
this.
No.
And it's such a shame because that transformation scene would make any other movie worth your time. But this one, I don't know, man. I don't know. They do something interesting, though. They used like huskies. They used real dogs for when the werewolves turned into wolves to run through the forest. And they had a lot of scenes with like huskies and such running through the forest to make their werewolves.
And they also do like when there's the transformation, I wouldn't call it a scene because it's just a hard cut from like them having sex to suddenly she's a weird dog.
Yeah.
Like when she's having sex with him. Like that, the way that they show the huskies, they'll sometimes show their faces, but they have some prosthetics and stuff on them. They kind of shine their eyes up a lot more, which is pretty typical and whatever. But they also like make their mouths really fucked up and weird. Like they do some weird shit with like the jaws of the huskies that's really neat looking.
Yeah.
And there's also the doctor is inside of the bell tower when they first go in there, and he's like kind of mocking them and stuff and like, oh, like we're gonna get you kind of thing. And he's half transformed with like this weird like Joker-fied face grin thing, like where his mouth is way too big and smiling, and he reaches into his mouth and rips his cheeks off.
There's some real
really
gross
weird
prosthetics going on. Yeah.
And then he transforms into a werewolf in a much less elaborate way, but the monster costume that he's in is really good too. Like, so there's some really, really good prosthetic work and special effects right at the end of this movie, and
yeah, I gotta say,
doesn't
like,
justify the beginning.
The costuming's good, the special effects are good. I feel like this would be a really good Tales from the Crypt episode. Again, like I think if they cut it down from what they have, and just really made it a tight story, I think this would work really well.
Yeah, I think there are two ways they could do it, which is like what you're saying, and I think that's absolutely would be a really, really cool, good little episode, is if they made it very, very tight. The other thing that they could do is I do think that, like I said, in the hands of a skilled director, they could have slowly upped the stakes of her being gaslit the whole time.
Up the
and
paranoia.
Yeah, they could have leaned in on that better and made those scenes feel more hectic. There is one scene that I did want to mention where like it shone through, and that's where it really clicked with me, that I'm like, man, if they had more scenes like this earlier that brought you in and that made you really feel the tension and fear that she's feeling and were actually kind of creepy, then it would have worked a lot better. And that was at one point she goes downstairs thinking there's like ghosts or a werewolf in the house or whatever. Late at night, she hears the howling, gets up, he's sleeping, and table kind of starts rattling. And at first it looks really cheesy and we were kind of laughing at it, but then they escalated appropriately, and like every piece of furniture, like, and I mean every piece of furniture, the bookcases, the coffee tables, the couches, everything like flips. Like they just start fucking freaking out, and it's a really interesting weird scene, and she's just screaming in the middle of like all this shit just whirling around her almost like a tornado, and then he runs downstairs and it's all normal. And it's like that was a really neat little scene. Like there's a few bits like that, and it's like, man, if they had a lot more of that interspersed with all the ghost shit that was like kind of genuinely unsettling, and did the theming and stuff of that right and shot it better, man, like that, you could have a good ratchet up of tension over an actual full-length film too. That one would take a lot more skill, though. That one would take a ton of skill. Chopping it down, you could probably take what we have here and chop it down appropriately and make like a few changes to the script here and there and like actually get a good Tales from the Crypt right away. Like you could do that a lot easier.
I think so, yeah. And apparently they constantly changed the script as they were shooting too because of the way they wrote it. So, if they had more clear direction, it's hard to say, but
it's hard to know where this thing fell apart.
Yeah.
But it did. It's so close. It's like you can just feel it like reaching out to touch the hand of God, right? Like I want to be a good B movie. I want so badly to be there, and it's just not. It doesn't quite make it.
Well, let's rate the dogs, huh?
Yeah.
We have Pierre, who's a white poodle something or another, very cute, loves to explore.
Pierre's just hopping around all over the rocks in the wilderness and the woods. He's such a cute little puppy. His tail is just wagging like crazy every time he's on scene, and
what a good pup, right?
What a good boy.
Easily a 12 out of 10. Did not deserve anything that happened to him at all. What a disaster.
I don't know that I would do a 12 out of 10 for Pierre. I think that I'll have to take a little off the top and give him like an 11 out of 10. We just didn't see enough of him.
You son of a bitch. Anyway, so there's also all the dogs that were the werewolves in wolf form, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. We got the goth girlfriend.
They run in a pack. They paint vaginas on the wall. You know what? I think they're pretty good pups. They run a town on their own, which means they're business oriented, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have to make money somehow, so they impound and sell cars, which makes sense, right? Like, I mean, they're making a lot of sense with what they should do, but, and it's a big but, they should have never spent all of their income on importing that fucking bell tower from Romania. So
really bad mistake. Yeah.
I would normally give them a satanic 666 out of 10, but I'm gonna have to give them like a 665. That was a really bad choice.
And also on top of that, like you're saying, like they run this town really good and everything like that, but there's no ethical human consumption under capitalism. They probably shouldn't eat all those people. So
yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
true.
have to take some points off there too.
Yeah,
similar,
like a 662 or something.
Yeah, 660.
Yeah, something like that.
Honestly, for the goth girlfriend scene, the 669.
Is that a sex joke?
Weird.
Or?
No, it's a weed thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's the weed number. Oh, okay. Whew.
Anyways, thank you for listening to Rough Cuts. This was. I want to like the Howling series more. I want to like it more. I wouldn't say that you shouldn't watch this, though. I think that there's some interesting things in it. You just got to be prepared for it being boring as shit for some of it. Some of it is real boring. It commits the cardinal sin of not being interesting sometimes. And anyways, you can always contact us. We have an email, roughcutscast@gmail.com, if you want to send us in movie recommendations, or if you have, like, we've actually gotten some fan art, things like that in the past. If you ever have anything that you want to just suggest to us, send to us, talk to us about, you can certainly send it to us there. We have clips that we put up on Twitter and TikTok. We're at Rough Cuts Cast. And you can always support us on Patreon. We put up episodes early every Tuesday. They go out for everyone else on Wednesdays. So thank you all for supporting us. We've at like 25,000 downloads. We've had lots of cool special guests and things. And we really appreciate all the Patreon dollars helping keep the lights on and getting us to watch these horrible movies and pay for them and everything. So it means a lot.
Yeah. I wanted to go pick up some extremely disappointing Rolling Rock, but every time I went to the store, the guy at the counter just said, "We're out of beer," and he just kept repeating it. "We're out of beer. We're out of beer. We're out of beer."
Oh my God! Run, boys! By that is
go away! Go the fuck away!
Like, show a shot over his shoulder where you can see all that. Do you know what I mean? Like, from they can't do it because it was night and day. They were two different scenes, but
Hi, are you Marie Adams?
You know, I often
Yes.
get up, have a coffee in the
I'm
morning, and look into my
Janice
living
Hatch.
room with the two
I'm,
people saying,
here
"Go
on
away,"
vacation.
and then I
Well,
realized
actually
it wasn't
over
my
at the Twin
house.
Forks Hotel.
and then I realized
I hope I'm
that
not
it wasn't
being
my
too
beautiful
forward,
wife,
but
and
I'm
I
a
think,
big fan.
how did I get here?
I really wanted to meet you.
Come on in. I just made some coffee. Come on. My whole life ruined by dogs.